So, thank you everyone for joining us in this podcast from Celent and ITC Asia. Today's topic is on reducing the protection gap with Insurtech in Asia. To just give a really quick summary of what the topic is about, Asia has a significant protection gap in terms of protecting against life, health, property, and other risks. As the insurance sector uses technology to develop creative risk financing solutions to close the protection gap and create a sustainable future, InsurTech will be a key force for change. InsurTechs can reduce operating expenses by facilitating faster claims reporting and evaluation and improving customer engagement. In today's podcast, I'm joined by esteemed speakers Max Ang, Insurance Technology Research Lead, Apec Celent; Yashesh Sampat, Senior Vice President, Head Affinity and Association, Gallagher, India; Derren Teo, Co-founder, Shura; and myself, Tricia Wong, Director, InsureTech Connect Asia. Just setting the stage, I would just like to ask you guys to feel free to jump in to answer any of the questions that we have for you guys today. So the first question is, why do you think there is a protection gap in Asia? And maybe Max, you can start by setting the context as well.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. So the protection gap can be described as the lack of cover for particular demographics or the inadequate coverage that's required to be fully protected. So known as the uninsured or the underinsured, this signals a need to provide affordable and the right coverage for the right customer group. So in the broad terms of sustainability on this topic itself, so we have observed companies that actually look at the ESG initiative as a sort of the guiding principles, and we have observed that vendors who are directly or indirectly addressing the challenges of climate change in terms of the general insurance space or financial inclusion, which is to bring about a change in the traditional insurance industry. So example include the use case of parametric insurance and offering embedded insurance or affordable covers for the life and health space. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for starting the podcast as well, Max. Is there anyone, maybe Yashesh or Derren, that you would like to jump in to help us understand a little bit more as well?
Yeah. Okay. So on the protection gap in Southeast Asia, I think it's something that because for us at Shura, we are in the general insurance space, but it's something that we look at as well. Like you mentioned, health, life, property. We keep a keen eye on the micro SME space in Southeast Asia, in Asia on a whole, and there are like 70 over million SMEs and micro SMEs. And I think for protection gap wise, why it exists a lot of times is that insurance is always the last thing on people's minds. And if everyone, like as a small business owner, every day you are just thinking about how you want to uh, uh, run your business, you don't really think about insurance. And one of the main factors I feel the insurers are also grappling with is distribution of insurance to this uninsured and underinsured. I think it's also a big thing in banking where like uh, banks are also trying to help this wider segment get bank accounts. It's something that if you look at it is uh, quite what's the word? We don't really see it in Singapore where everyone has a bank account, right? So in the wider context for this uninsured and underinsured, it's about the distribution and the accessibility of getting these products to them. Yeah.
Interesting. So, Darren, you came from a tech background, having Sure as well. It must be something that you can relate. Based on how your technology is gonna help and what are some of the things that Sure is doing, how do you think the protection gap in Asia can be bridged? And just jumping onto that, how can technology in particular help as well to bridge that gap?
Yeah. So what we are doing at Sure, we are trying to help insurers to reach a very fragmented sales force in the insurance industry, and with uh, with our technology where we can help insurers to distribute better to the sales force. They can get better insights. They can create more interesting products, reduce the cost of distribution, and And on a wider scale, when we want to reach the underinsured and uninsured, we can then help the insurers to think of interesting products. And at the end of the day, insurance at its core, right, law of large numbers. The insurers need to have the conviction that they can be able to have a sustainable portfolio before they decide to write a certain kind of risk. And because the it's quite inefficient now whenever intermediaries need to access certain products from insurers. We try to make it easier for everyone in the ecosystem to transact on a platform. And we believe that if we can enable more intermediaries to access these products easier, they can then bring these products to the underinsured and uninsured out there.
The question is, how can the protection gap in Asia be bridged? And from your side, from the insurance distribution side, what are some of the things that you think can be done in this ecosystem building that will enable the protection gap in Asia to be bridged?
Yeah, thanks, Tricia. The scenario right now, while we speak in Asia, is that the awareness for risk is gradually increasing, especially in last 2 to 3 years. But the major reasons, according to me, why there's a massive gap in an Asian market has been predominantly that the consumers, the residents of Asia look to insurance still more like a investment tool compared to a risk management or a loss management tool, right? And only the product of insurance importance comes out only at the time when the calamity actually strikes an individual or a business owner. Okay, then he realizes that, hey, wish I had an insurance, I could have compensated my this financial loss. And that's why you see in Asia still there's a massive bad debts, loans, liabilities for individuals and SMEs. Just because they have not had loans, insurance protection, they have gone and taken these loans and have a liability on top of their heads, right? But while we speak, especially post or during the COVID era and the post-COVID era, especially in an Indian market, you saw some fabulous innovations coming up in a insurance product, especially for COVID. And we could see to it that you had short-term tenure covers like 3.5 months, 6.5 months, 9.5 months, or a 1 year tenure cover, where consumers across the market just went about buying it digitally or offline. And at least they could come under the gamut of insurance in some or the other form. To answer to your question specifically, how can we fill up the insurance protection gap? I think the regulator in the country in last 3 to 4 months is doing all the radical steps in a country like India to make insurance more evolving. The regulations are favoring distribution. The regulators are making a point to bring about radical changes in the way an insurer can file a product, how it can market a product. They are allowing embedded insurance to come up in a real good way. The use and file guidelines are a phenomenal transition in an Indian market where all life and general insurers can come up with products to just experiment, offer it to the consumers, and then go to the regulator, subject to the board approvals and the viability of doing that product. And I think the different stakeholders are playing a great collective role in Asia to start with in an Indian market, right from the IRDI, the regulator, the broking communities, representatives from IBAI, the individual large SME, small brokers, and to add to it, definitely the insurance companies who are now far more evolving in terms of tech and collaboration with clients and partners.
Thank you so much. Great insights as always, and thanks for letting us deep dive a little bit into the Indian market. I think that was very insightful. So maybe let's go to Max. Max, I know you are a research lead in the insurance space for Celent, especially in APEC. In your opinion, where does the gap exist? Is it in the general insurance space, the health insurance, the life insurance space? Where do you think you can pinpoint, and what are some of the main reasons as well?
Well, I think for Gap, I've tackled from both sides, general insurance and life and health. Overall, I think I mentioned earlier as well, cost is often cited as one of the main reasons. So we talk about the affordability And then the second is on lack of insurance awareness. So you talk about whether people, how they perceive insurance or what do they think it will help them or not help them. And so then there are some jobs that do not provide insurance, such as your gig workers, and all these add up together to contribute to the gap in the insurance space. And so when we look at traditional insurance, then they can cover damages incurred by the catastrophic event like your cyclones or your flood. But most of these laws are uninsured, and so such events actually fall under the sub-limits or even the exclusion or deductibles of an insurance policy. So therefore, the protection gap for disaster event is still very wide, and traditional insurance are very good assessing and catering to tangible losses, such as the roof damage after a storm, but there are damages that are not quantifiable in a sense. So a storm may actually make a place less attractive to tourism and so on. So we have to consider such factors when we look at how do we cater to, or at least to close out this insurance gap, at least for the general sense. And then when we look at life, according to a Swiss Re estimates, is that the Apec mortality protection gap is at around 80 billion in 2019, of which the 5 emerging economies are actually contributing to this pool. And China has the highest in terms of proportion for protection gap due to the size of that country itself. And then India, if you correct me if I'm wrong, is that there are more families actually vulnerable to financially cope, especially without the loss of their breadwinners in the event of such an incident. So closing this gap actually represents a very huge opportunity for insurers with an additional estimated premium potential, let's say about 380 billion per year. And then the findings also show that consumers often do not choose to buy life insurance, as mentioned by Derren. So the task for insurers is to better understand the consumer mindset. So we are looking at the customer journey. How do we improve that and to differentiate the value that life insurance policy offers? So the pandemic has been a great, kind of great booster in a way to let people buy more insurance and to be aware of their life and health coverage. So these are the two general space, which I think that's why the gaps still exist. And obviously, these are actually every gap that exists in the market today is actually opportunities for companies or even the InsureTech to tap on and actually provide a better products and services. Yeah.
Thank you, Max. As expected, lots of numbers from the Celent team. Yeah, so I think that has been really insightful. Everyone has been giving really good comments as well. So maybe just going back to Derren, I think earlier Max mentioned that that InsurTechs can jump in to help and bridge some of the protection gap. Just in your own opinion, what do you think the future looks like? How will InsurTech help to bridge the protection gap in a more tangible way as well?
Yeah. Thanks, Tricia. I think I 100% agree, like with what Max have said, with what Yashesh have said. And it was interesting. I'm currently in KL now. I had some conversations with some insurers. I think where InsurTechs can come in and platforms like us can come in is where we can actually help different insurers, because different insurers have different products, to blend like different classes of insurance together into a product. So when we look at general insurance, there's life insurance and general insurance, right? But interestingly, if you think in another sense, general insurance can be also be looked at as livelihood insurance. Why we call it livelihood insurance? And we are talking about who actually needs insurance protection. There's the micro SMEs, the small store owner, the small F&B owner. That if something happens, they need insurance to actually put their business back in order. So they are the ones that need the insurance because they are unable to self-insure. And if you can blend a coverage for their shop together with like a life insurance for the key business owner, then maybe it's something that they can look at, rather than if you ask him to look at life insurance, because for him, he will think more about his livelihood than his life. So if you blend the both together, maybe part of the premiums that you pay for a shop goes into a small term life coverage, and something happens to the key business owner, then it's something that the policy can pay out. So platforms can help different insurers by taking the best product from each insurer, putting it together, package it together into a product for the uninsured and underinsured.
Thank you. And Yashesh, do you have any comments on what do you think the future looks like? How will technology, maybe from the aspect, help to bridge the protection gap according to you?
Hey, this is in addition to what Theo said, and I completely second his opinion in terms of you need to come up with innovations for reducing the gap which is there. And technology is the biggest game changer in last 2 years, which we all saw globally. And in the next 5 years, I think in an Asian market where awareness, penetrations of technology, right from payment gateways across the different tools where consumers have been paying cash or paying checks, it has evolved. You have payment fintech partners embedding small ticket insurances like health or accident or trip insurances. You have cab aggregators, the leading ones in the country who are adding trip insurance. You have airlines now bundling insurance also and giving an offer to the consumers to buy to protect their trips, right? And now we are even seeing, especially a big radical upliftment in terms of the GIG workers who are there in the country, which is highly uninsured segment, okay, where the corporates or the different stakeholders in the ecosystem are coming up with insurance solutions to give them a protection therein. You saw the IRDAI coming up with a recent regulation change in motor also, where you are now having a pay as per use concept, pay how as you drive, and accordingly your premiums get reduced. So all this is evolving, in my opinion, due to technology. Your technology platforms, InsurTech platforms in the Asian market have flourished uh, phenomenally in last 2 to 3 years. You have massive fundings coming in the fintech world, right? And the storyline is all about consumers for insurance, all about small ticket products. What Tio just said few minutes back about micro insurance, SME insurance. Now you are seeing people using technology to sell the product, and a hybrid model of a physical awareness and a digital distribution push, which I so call as the phygital approach of doing business, will be the way forward. Because still in an Asian market, a consumer would want to see who the person is, where he is hedging his business or an individual risk. So a combo of a physical and digital is a way forward, in my opinion. And how we make insurance there in each of the households in some or the other form, at least with a half dollar or 1/4 cent of a dollar, at least that much affordability if the consumer starts doing it. Yeah, I think it will be a big upliftment in the way insurance penetration is there, and the numbers will definitely go up.
Yeah, 100%
Interesting.
agree with Yashesh when you mentioned about like how you want to blend the physical and the digital. So like if you look at Southeast Asia, you'll see predominantly insurance will be sold by brokers and agents. So now the biggest challenge is how do we really enhance and digitalize each of these agent and brokers so that they can actually get the products out there and to the consumers in the fastest way possible.
Theo, one very interesting thing, you have even cyber as a very growing risk in an Asian market where cyber risk exposures are growing. And I was just yesterday having a meeting with one of the insurers. I said, for pushing a cyber insurance, can you give me a digital tool? And to my surprise, the answer was, no, we are not yet ready, right? So that is somewhat irony, which I can say that still while we talk that we can come up with all the product innovations possible, we have the consumers who will buy the product, but to put your brains on the drawing board and make the insurance buying process a simple journey, right? You click, you pay, you select the plan, and policies into your inbox is still to be solved by leading insurers in Asia and the different stakeholders also who distribute the products.
I think more so than just the technology platform, in my opinion, I feel the customer journey is really important as well. A lot of people strive to streamline lots of processes, especially in the insurance space, but legacy systems and everything. But when people actually start to use it as a consumer, I just find it sometimes that do people even go through themselves using the platform before releasing it? That there are some of the thoughts that sometimes I have. when it comes to new technology products and platforms being put up to place. But very interesting comments. Absolutely agree. Education is key as well. Some of the questions as to how people bridge the protection gap, some of the solutions that are out there. I think that all makes sense. I think now is the time where we actually go ahead and do something about it. So absolutely agree.
And Tricia, one more area where I think so, it was not on my point to discuss, but it's just coming while talking to you guys, is that the youngsters, the youth of the countries of Asian markets who are passing out and graduating post their management, still the acceptability of making their careers into the ecosystem of insurance is still not there, right? And
Yeah,
how we can actually show them what is the opportunity for them to come and join the sector of insurance, right? And
yeah.
create awareness. You require insurance professionals to come out and actually sit and solve the protection gap in some or the other form. And I think education institutes, education will play a very, very big role to solve this also.
100%, especially in the Singapore context. I think most Asian parents want their children to be doctors, lawyers. Not sure in
There you are.
other
There
parts
you
of
are.
Asia Pacific, but no one graduates and say, "Hey, I'm going to be working in the insurance space." At least not the large percentage of people. So absolutely, Max as well. Is there anything that you would like to add on how can we tackle the protection gap? What are some of the things that you think we can help to bridge the protection gap?
Well, to build on the topic of how do we attract the younger generation to join insurance space, I think it's more of branding. Like it or not, branding actually plays a huge role in being making industry attractive. So one of the things that we came out with previously was, can we call the agents the hybrid agents of the future? Or can we give them a nicer terminology that say that you're not just selling something, you're actually being empowered by technology, and then you actually can sell better and advise your customer better. So there was a sense of, if we brand in a better way, like call them financial consultants or advisors, to help clients' needs, this will actually help attract people to join the industry, and to showcase that how can you use technology like data and analytics, machine learning, your models, how can they enable you to have better underwriting. So once the industry can educate the younger generation on what we do, as a whole, that may actually give them a clue of what is it like to be in this space, and it's not just pushing out policies and then creating that sort of alienation between them and the customers. So we have to change that mindset of how it's being perceived as the industry. And then I also see other, on a broader term, is that we should look more into sustainable financing. So sustainability, not only just looking at the environmental factors and so on, we should look at the social factors, and how can we make it in such a way that we can include people into the whole ecosystem. Customer journey is one way to do it. How do we include the population that's underinsured or uninsured? So from there actually currently today there are solutions that are actually tackling such an issue. So parametric insurance was one of the topics for the P&C space, a general space. So by agreeing to set parameters that define the impact of the event, we can actually assess loss and settle claims quickly. So that's one way of how technology can help change the way we get claims and so on. And then even Swiss Re has developed a parametric database insurance solution specifically for cyclone events. So they target very specific events using data, and they work together in partnership with InsureTech such as Reese to produce a wind speed footprint that can determine how severe a cyclone can be. So this brings to the topic of partnerships. Big companies, large corporations working with InsureTech and then to use the data to harness it together to form a model that can actually help better prediction. And even going into spaces such as telecommunication, where we might not think that you have a coverage need, but actually there is. So according to Reese Wolf, InsureTech, they see that telecommunication is estimated to be 4 billion in ASEAN and India alone. So in this market itself, if there is a certain outages, we actually need such coverage to cover this area. So we have to think broader in terms of how can we cover a particular space that we might not think of, in the past. And then another example of working together is actually how can reinsurer together with InsureTech come up with a platform to look at whether risk management. So that's some ideas of how the P&C space can benefit from technology today. And even If you look at life and health insurance, like you mentioned earlier, embedded insurance space, financial inclusion space, these are things that can actually help bridge the gap that we see today. And in addition, partnerships, something that I always feel that is going to be very useful. So there's if I could say, just conclude the answer was that we should look towards a three-pronged approach of government working together with healthcare providers and insurers to develop an ecosystem whereby we try to share data, even though it's a very mammoth task. But I think if we're able to work with the regulators and then everybody in the ecosystem can contribute, we might be able to lower the cost of in the way of acquisition and so on by just sharing data and creating models that can help. So to bring all together technology, data, partnerships, education, and kind of marketing will actually help the whole, actually help close the gap and make the industry as a whole more attractive. Yeah.
Thank you, Max. Any last maybe some sentences to kind of summarize this whole podcast? And maybe I'll start first. I think cross collaboration is really important. I just think that instead of a top-down approach where the C-suites are making some of the decisions, sometimes I feel that the bottom-up approach makes a lot more sense for the insurance space because people are on the ground working and talking to customers, knowing what they actually need, what are some of the pain points, and then that could be worked together. So I think not just between insurers, healthcare, and also maybe schools and education wise. I think within the whole insurance incumbents companies itself, there needs to be a lot more of cross sharing of data as well between what one team and one group is hearing compared to someone else at the top as well. So that would be my one line, and maybe Max, you would like to grace us.
I would say working together, like echoing your sentiments, is that working together as an industry will definitely bring it, at least help transform the industry. Because if working in silos, like we've seen many use cases of, if companies do not share their data, then there's a lack of knowledge sharing. And then this actually causes the kind of ununited front. So when we come together, we may actually make it stronger as a whole. Yeah.
Thank you. And Derren?
Yeah, so I think sharing of data is something that the industry needs to learn to do. I think a lot of insurers they are very very wary of sharing data. They're always afraid that someone might copy them and do better. That's something I think the industry needs to learn better. But at the end of the day, I think when we go back, we just for getting insurance into the hands of the underinsured, uninsured, closing the protection gap. I think we just need to go back to basics to understand that insurance as its core is still a push product. You still need someone to sell the product to someone else. And that I mean the statistics show in globally as well, where you have 70 to 80% of insurance still sold by intermediaries, agents, brokers, or financial advisors. So the aim is how we can digitalize the intermediaries, which what we at Sure we are doing, so that they can actually go out there and do more business and get more people protected.
Thank you. And Yashesh, keeping the best for last.
So I think it was a great topic so far, and the more you speak and more collaborative, diversified markets come together and try to solve the Asian markets' biggest challenge today on the risk protection gap. I think that would be the way forward. Tricia, I think such forums will play a very big role where we all from the different Asian market stakeholders can come forward, have some ideas, have some live practices and case studies, how mass penetration of insurance has actually happened, whether it's a bit-size insurance, whether it's an embedded or a national level or a government level scheme which have come up. And in my opinion, the way forward would be how different stakeholders in the entire country's ecosystem, right from government to regulator to the distribution lobbies to the insurers, have a clear roadmap that at least let's pick up one or two of these areas for next couple of years and increase the penetration of insurance, right? In an exciting market like us here, I am seeing a great, innovation coming right from even premium financing, right? For an individual consumer, where premium financing wasn't available. Now that too is also available to increase the penetration of insurance, right? And such things are very less known to the market outside, correct? That how do we avail that? So it is all circling down to one thing is awareness, 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 and not insurance be looked as a pull or a push product. It's a necessity product, right? The
Absolutely.
pendulum has been moving forwards from pushing from the insurers and the distributors or to being pulled by the consumers who desperately need insurance. I think this is not the way this pendulum has to move ahead. It is more about, yes, this is a necessity for every individual or a business owner today. He or she just can't survive financially if there is no insurance. And the risk exposures, whether it's environmental risk, whether it's a climatic changing risk, whether it's a pure business risk or a health or a personal risk. These are just growing due to the complexities and the lifestyle changes. So is the bottom line, in my opinion, is let's come together, continue the radical movement of awareness and touch base to bring the solutions of insurance as a must in every householders. I think that's all about from my side today.
Absolutely. So I think if anything, I think COVID has taught us that, insurance has definitely become a necessity. People have started thinking about their own protection as well. That is definitely something to kickstart, and I hope we can, really just go through the momentum. Thank you everyone here. I hope you guys meet not just new friends, but also people that, you guys will be able to talk about certain topics of interest in the future after the podcast. My name is Tricia. I'm the director of ITC Asia, and thank you everyone for having us here today.
Thank you, Tricia.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a lovely
Thank you,
day.
Trisha.
Stay safe, stay secured, and please take insurance.